Hello, this is David Benaim. In this video, I'm going to show you how to combine different Excel files into one table. So for example, here I have file 1 is Australia orders, file 2 is Cambodia orders, file 3 is Singapore orders, etc., etc. And they have the same more or less structure, maybe a different number of rows, but I want the output to be like this, where I have the file name, the item, date, and amount there. So I'm going to show you how to do this in Power Query, and that works in both Power BI and Excel. We're going to go through the automated method to do this, and I'm going to explain why I don't like that method, and then I'm going to walk you through the manual method. And this is something that I do all the time. I really love this feature. However, I will shortcut you if you have never used Power Query before and you find this whole experience a little bit daunting. Then if you leave a comment in this video and subscribe to my channel, then I can send you this file that I've pre-prepared that allows you to do it automatically for you. So all you have to do is paste your folder path in here. So this one I'm going to copy, and then here I'm going to paste. And then if you click on load files, then just say which ones you want and which ones you don't. So choose in the needed column, yes, yes, and this one says ignore, so no. Then after that I can click on combine files, and then it runs the background query, and in combine files here I have the data. It's a little bit messy. Here you want to change this to dates, for example, but in essence, all the data is there. You can combine ultimately however many files you want. So this method works if you have Excel 2016 or more recent. The only thing that you need to do is go to the Data tab, Get Data, and choose Query Options. And then you need to set a couple of things here. So in privacy, you need to click on this that says always ignore privacy level settings. Don't worry, this is not going to make your computer at risk or anything like that. You just need to press this, press OK. And if you do that, then this method will work. But if you haven't changed that, then it won't work. So as I said before, if you want the easy quick fix method, just subscribe to my channel and leave a comment in this video, and then I can get in touch with you about sending you this file that I've pre-made. Otherwise, let's get started on the do-it-yourself method. So I'm going to start in Power BI. I'm going to open a new Power BI file. And rest assured, if you haven't heard of Power BI or seen it before, then this same method works with Excel. I'm just going to fill in the holes of how they differ at the end of this video. But please bear with me because the procedure is the same. They both use this sub-product called Power Query. So in Power BI, I'm going to choose Get Data, and I'm going to choose More, and I'm going to choose it from a folder. I'm going to demo it with Excel files, but this also works with CSV files, as I'll show later on as well. So I'm going to find where my folder is, and that is over here. I'm going to copy that file path, and here I'm going to paste it. You can use the browse if you want, but I find this method faster if you have navigated to it on File Explorer. So here we are with the data. I'm going to choose combine and transform data. This is using the automated method within Power Query. I'm going to explain now why I don't like this method. So if I go into the query itself, I'm going to click here and choose OK, because all of the sheets have that name. So here I am in Power BI, and if you haven't used it before, then don't worry. It's exactly the same as Excel. I'll explain and show how later on. So I'm going to choose Get Data More in Power BI. And I'm going to choose to get data from a folder, and then press Connect. Now I can get the folder path. So the files that I want are in here. Now I'm going to click on there and copy, and then go back to Power BI and paste and press OK. Combine and transform data. So this is the built-in way, and I'm going to show you what that yields and why I don't always like it. So you get the opportunity to join it together. Sheet 1 is the name of all the sheets, so that's going to be good for this. And then it loads up a query which combines them together. As you can see, for Australia and Cambodia orders, this has worked, but for Singapore, it hasn't quite worked. So let's look at the Singapore file and see why. So this is the Singapore file. It starts with a title, and then it has the things underneath. Now, if I was to delete that and save the file, and then go back to Power BI and click refresh, now it does work correctly because it knows to ignore those. But we don't always have that luxury that everything is exactly identical. Other things that could break it are if I rename this sheet. So save, refresh, and as you can see, it's now showing me this error and it's not working. So there's a lot of reasons why the built-in method doesn't work. Also, for Power Query novices or people that don't use it very much, I find this very confusing. You've got the sample file, you've got a function and a parameter. And if you're kind of new to Power Query, then all this stuff can be a bit daunting. So I'm going to show you how to do it manually. And although there are a lot of steps, if you just follow these steps, it ends up with the right method. You don't have to necessarily understand them, but this is a step-by-step guide for how to make it work. So here I am in Power BI in a blank file. I'm going to again choose Get Data More. And then I'm going to go to Folder, Connect, just like before. I'm going to paste in the folder path. This is a slightly different one. And we're going to see what that shows. Now here I have a few different Excel files. And I want to combine all the Excel files, but I do have this lightbulb PNG file. I don't want to keep that. And then I'm going to need to filter that out. So I'm going to click on Transform Data because I'm going to do this manually. Now I'm going to do these steps pretty fast, but I am going to explain them more later on why I've done them. And I have spent a lot of time researching and fine-tuning this method to make it work better. Okay. So I'm going to first click here, right click, and choose Transform, lowercase. Then I'm going to filter it, begins with .xls. Press OK. And what those two have done is they've made sure that the uppercase one takes the filters and also that I take out anything that's not an Excel file, but I can keep this macro Excel file still. Next, I'm going to go to Attribute, expand here, and choose Hidden. Press OK. And then I'm going to go to Logical Filters Equals, and then go here False. If you haven't understood why, then I will explain that later on. Next step, click on Add Column, Custom Column, equals Excel.Workbook. I can press Tab to lock that in. And then bracket, square bracket, and then content, that's the one that I want. Close my brackets there. This is going to extract all the content from those Excel workbooks. I don't write a lot of custom code in Power Query, but this is a 3-word one that I really like. So I'm going to press OK. Next, I'm going to just click on the name column and control click on the custom column, right click and choose remove other columns. I only want to keep these two. And now I'm going to expand out the custom and press OK. All of it should be ticked. That's fine. And then I want to only load the relevant ones. So I can click on the filter here and I want to untick ignore. So I only want the ones in load this and sheet 1. That is obviously a custom feature there. Then I'm going to click on name and custom data again, right click and remove other columns. I only care about these two again. So the first step, I expanded from Excel files into Excel sheets. And now the second step, I'm expanding from Excel sheets into the actual data that we'll see now. So now I expand that, press OK. And then I want to promote the headers. Now I'm going to click on Add Column and Index Column. Again, this is not incredibly obvious now, but I'll explain why later in this video. Next, in Add Column, I choose Conditional Column. and I choose if index equals 0, then a custom word called file name. Otherwise, select a column that is the name column. Press OK. And now I have this over here like that. I'm going to now click on this, and the custom column. And I'm now going to right click and choose remove other columns. I don't care about the name of the index anymore. Next, what I'm going to do is go to the Home tab, choose use first row as headers, and that promotes all of these to be the headers. And now what you'll notice is that I have more or less the same columns and the same structures, but I do have a few differences. In the Poland one and the Singapore one, it says the name of the thing and then another row for null, and then it starts with a table. And if I open up those files, we'll see why. So if I open up Singapore, for example, we'll see that it has here, row number 1 just says the title, row number 2 is a blank, and then the data starts on row 3. That is different to, for example, Australia, where row number 1 is the headers, and it continues like that. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to choose to filter out the null values in the relevant column. So this is a relevant column because my headers are always in the first column. So here I can choose remove empty, and that will just leave it like this. And the final thing I want to now do is remove the repeated header names, because each file has a repeat of the header names, as you might expect. And now what I can do is I can go to this one and I can filter out the word date. I could have done that from any of the other columns, but I just kept it consistent in that one. Final thing, I'm going to take out the country here. So I'm going to click here, choose transform, extract text before delimiter. I'm fortunate here that it's always identical. So it's always a space, and then I'll just write OR just in case. Press OK. Now I'm just left with the country. So let's just rename this to country. And just to prove it, I can go back to my folder here. And if I drag in this one that's called Germany into that folder, Home tab, and refresh, and that still works there. All right, so another area where things very often break is if someone renames a folder. So I'm going to rename that folder. Here I'm going to refresh, and that breaks there as well. So I'm going to go to Manage Parameters and New Parameter, and this is going to be just the folder path. I'm going to put the current value, copy this, and paste it in here. How do we make that link to here? If we click in there, and then you click on Source, and instead of the typed out one, I'm going to choose the parameter, which is folder path. Press OK. And then all the query is still working fine. I can refresh preview. But if I rename this folder path like that, and then I'm going to just copy this to preempt what's going to happen. Now I refresh and this breaks. But if I change my folder path and here I paste, here it's loading fine. So it's good to do this with parameters. In Excel, it's very slightly different. I told you with Excel I was going to show you how it differs. So I'm going to do that right now. And I'm also going to show you how it differs very slightly for CSV files. So over here, I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to copy this parameter. I'm going to go to a new Excel file and I'm going to go to the Data tab and choose Queries and Connections. It's blank because this is a blank new Excel file. I'm going to paste. And what's really nice is if you paste a query between Excel and Power BI, it also pastes any precedent queries or parameters with it like that. So this is our data output as we might expect. And if I double click to open the query, I could see that broadly it's the same thing. So all of the things that I showed you before, you could do the same with Excel. In fact, to show you how to get started, you go to the Data tab, you choose Get Data from File and then from Folder. And then it's exactly the same experience from here on out. Paste it here, press OK, and you press Transform Data. And Power Query Editor is exactly the same in Excel and in Power BI. So you just need to go through all those steps in the same way that I did them here. Now, I don't really like the parameters experience in Excel because people can only edit them really by opening up the Power Query Editor. But chances are you're going to want to use this with people that are not very good at Power Query. So I'm going to show you another method to do that. So what I need to do is pre-prepare my file path just in a regular cell. And then here I've just put a title there. That doesn't really matter for how it works, but just to make it look pretty. And then this cell with the actual file path, I'm going to click in it, go to my name box and rename that to file path. Press enter. Then I'm going to click on this cell still, go to data and choose from table range. Remember, you need Excel 2016 or more recent to do this. Over here, I want to exit out of these two steps. They're not relevant now. I right click here and I choose drill down. What that has now done is that's made file path related to just this one single value that I can then have as my folder path. So here I now go into the start of it and I need to go to the source. In my formula bar, I need to just type file path instead of folder path, which I had before, and that now works. Just by the way, if you don't see this, go to the View tab and you can tick or untick formula bar if you don't see it there. Now this is linked to whatever I have written here. And just to prove that, if I rename the folder to be something else, and over here I just copy that. If I refresh, it will break. But if I paste it in here and refresh all, it will now do it there. So again, just like before, if you want to bring in another file or change the files, you can change whatever happens in the folders. Like I'm going to take out Singapore for this demo. And then in Excel, I'm going to refresh all. And now it's loading it without Singapore, as you can see there. So that's broadly how you do it. If you are going to change it to have CSVs instead of Excel files, so going into Power BI, where you have this step that says added custom, if I edit that, instead of Excel.Workbook, if you have CSVs, you just write Csv.Document and then content again. It can also actually work with PDF. So you could have, instead of these, you could have PDF, tables, again, content, and this can actually extract data from PDFs. Even if you have one Excel file, I still love using this method because it just makes it more robust when people change file names, which seems to happen so often. Now let me show you why I did a couple of those extra methods. So I'm going to right click and duplicate this query. And let's see what happens if I didn't do this expanded attribute step. So I'm going to click X there, delete. Click X here, delete as well. So now we'll see that if I add a custom column and do all this stuff, I can see that these are now loading errors. And what actually are these files? Because I only have Australia, Cambodia, Germany, Poland, Singapore. So what does this and this mean? This actually means that I have the file open. So let me prove it. If I close the file, go back here and refresh, I can see that now that's gone. And if I close out of the Singapore one, refresh again, that's gone again. And now this would work. So I could go through all the steps and this one would work fine. The reason why I like doing that extra step is because you can have the files open while still doing this, and it's just a more robust way to do it. So now let's explain why we did this extra stuff with the index column, the conditional column. It seemed like it wasn't necessary. So I'm going to right click here and duplicate. And in the second one, I'm going to remove from here and delete until end. And then from here, I'm just going to use the one that says use first row as headers. And I'm going to just rename this to country, like that. And now let me go back into here. And let's say I have another file that's called Argentina. So this file, I'm going to drag into the folder. And over here, I'm going to refresh preview. And this is broken. It says the column Australia orders XLSX wasn't found. If I go here and refresh preview, this is fine. It's got my Argentina rows. Now, what exactly was happening? Over here, it looks for the column called Australia orders, but actually my header starts with Argentina because it sorts it alphabetically. Argentina is before Australia, so then it doesn't work. Now, if we go back one step, we can see that row number 1 contains the row headers for column 1, 2, 3, but for the name column, it actually has the data. So it's not at the same level. And that's why we need to go through that extra step where we add the conditional column. And over here, we now have that row number 1 is where the headers are for all of these columns. And row number 2 is where the data starts. And that's why we have to do that step to get them to be the same. All right, so that's it for this video. If you liked it, please click on the like button and subscribe to my channel. I have tons more content about Power Query, Excel, Power BI, PowerPoint, Teams, Outlook, Google Sheets, etc. And loads more coming up soon. All right, thanks for watching.